Kinilisi kiniduda. Adawis, are we ready?
We are ready. We are live. We are live now. Welcome. Welcome to day 4, evening plenary. Day 4 is all about fire, the foundations of life. And we get these inspired by eco governance, the system, and we're honoring each one across these days of World Unity Week. We're on day 4 and day 4 of the 99 days of peace through unity. And it's been an amazing day again, beautiful coherence pulse we just enjoyed. Thank you to everybody for that gorgeous space that was created. Today's very special because we've got 3 very senior Indigenous global leaders who are going to be joining us talking about restoring right relationships with fire. And we have a very special spiritual leader and elder who's going to open us up today with a sacred blessing. So it's my honor to introduce you, Venerable Dhyani Ywahoo. Please welcome to World Unity Week.
Thank you for the invitation and for the good works that are being done. We are all relatives in this dance of life, and we all have reason to be grateful. Ginilisi giniduda adawis, otsalahi iliga, tohi uhaluni, Elohimona galun lati, tohi uhaluni, nuwati jotili, tohi uhaluni. How precious and wonderful the gifts of life. Our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents, continuously blessing each of us. Wisdom, a song that flows through us. The warmth of the fire, the mind of our hearts, seeing and hearing that we are dreaming this together. Let us all awaken and recall we are relatives in the dance. The pulse beat of life is our own heart song. The cackling of the fire is our communion. Let us continuously be grateful for the gift of life and cultivate a mind of good cheer as we give thanks, knowing that those who are yet to be born are watching, and those who have gone on are singing through us, and for this we are grateful. Gali iliga.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Dhyani Ywahoo, for opening in such a sweet, gentle way as we begin this honoring of fire and this conscious reflection on our relationship to fire and all that it means as a foundation for life. Thank you for being with us, and we hope you will stay with us as well. I want to bring on our 3. Becky, if you can bring up Uncle Angaangaq, Dr. Mindahi Bastida, and Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr., our esteemed panel for today, to welcome you to room 1 here in World Unity Week. Chief Phil, greetings. It's great to see you. Wonderful to see you, looking very well. And Brother Mindahi and Uncle Angaangaq will come up here as our panel. And I'm going to give brief introductions, and then Brother Mindahi, greetings. Thank you for being with us.
Thank
And
you.
Uncle Angaangaq is coming up as well. I'm going to give brief introductions. These 3 elders, these 3 spiritual leaders and Indigenous leaders do have very long bios. So I don't want to take up too much time with reading all of their accomplishments and all of their titles and all of their awards. And I'm quite serious. Each 3 of them are extremely accomplished leaders. Let me just give you a quick brief introduction. Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. Is an enrolled member of the Ihanktawan, Dakota, and Chickasaw nations, and is an internationally recognized leader in human, community, and economic development. Phil's achieved a huge amount over the last 54 years and is a real leader in the unification of the human family. It's an honor to have you with us, Chief Phil. Uncle Angaangaq is a shaman, traditional healer, storyteller, and carrier of the kilowatt wind drum, whose family belongs to the traditional healers of the far north from Kalalit Nunat, Greenland. His name means the man who looks like his uncle. Since he was a child, he was trained by his family, especially by his grandmother, Anakasa, for becoming a shaman. The spiritual task given by his mother is melting the ice in the heart of man. Dr. Mindahi Bastida Munoz is director of the Original Caretakers Initiative at the Center for Earth Ethics. He serves as general coordinator of the Atomi Ywahoo Regional Council in Mexico, a caretaker of the philosophy and traditions of the Otomi people, and has been an Otomi ritual ceremonial officer since 1988. Born in Tultepec, Mexico, he holds a doctorate of rural development from the Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana and is a president of the Mexico Council of Sustainable Development. You can see, friends, the incredible auspicious moment of these three global spiritual leaders coming together. And we are reflecting on this question, Brother Phil, Brother Mindahi, Uncle Angaangaq. How can we restore our right relationship to fire? And Uncle Angaangaq, we're going to begin with you to open up this esteemed panel and have a discussion about how can we restore our right relationship to fire.
Ben, my dear brother, I'm so happy to be with these two friends of mine, Dr. Phil Lane and Mindahi. Fire is really, really important. I was told by my father and my mother in 1969 that one day I would bring back home an ancient tradition of sacred fire to our land. It took me 40 years to do that, but I did it. And they say that these old people of my family, my father's mother and her family had lived in the same village for about 6,000 years, which was told by the UNESCO archaeologists and scientists. They made my grandmother's land heritage land, so now I carry that land. They say that fire is really, really important. That we had to learn to melt the ice in the heart of man. Only by melting the ice in the heart of man, man will have a chance to change and begin using his knowledge wisely. And that fire in the heart is really interesting, because I come from the land where there's no trees. But because of the climate change, trees have begun to stand up. And the fire, sacred fire, has returned to our land. And there's a beautiful, beautiful prayer, at least in my heart and in my ears. It's beautiful because it talks about the fire. They say, these old people, that when you invite the fire to light up, she would do that because you ask her. And then when you ask her to bring the light, she will do that. And then when you ask her to bring the warmth, she will give it to us. So that's the importance of fire. And with that fire, they say that not only can we begin to see each other, we can begin to recognize each other. And we have really truly lost that ceremony amongst us. You can see that in today's world. So I find it so interesting that you brought it up, Dan, and I'm so happy to be part of it. This is the way we call the fire to come. So you and I, we can sit in a circle which has no beginning, no ending, in which we all belong. The beauty of the circle is that we cannot see each other's backs, and the strength of the circle is that we can only see each other's beauty. Imagine that the fire brings you and I to sit in the same circle.
Thank you.
And no one can speak about us from the back. No one can belittle us from the back. No one can put us down from our back. I long to that moment when all of us, as mankind, we can begin to sit in the same circle and no longer put each other down, no longer belittle each other from the back, backbiting, but recognizing only the very beauty of each person surrounding us. Inner ikigit ikumalrit ayo o inner ikipo ikumarisibo ayo inner amarit amarisigit ayo inner amakpok amarisuni ayo ho inner unagit unarisigit ayo inner kisatipok unarisuni ayo ho 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 That's the importance of the fire for every one of us from our heart. Oyana.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Angaangaq, for presencing the fundamental foundation of life that is fire, and for your vision of that great circle around that singular fire, sacred fire, all of us in a circle. That is a beautiful way to begin. Chief Phil Lane Jr., solstice greetings to you. We have had the honor, I have had the honor and privilege of being with you around sacred fires in Ethiopia and other great parts of our beautiful Mother Earth. And it's just delightful, Phil, to have you with us on this auspicious day, to speak from your own vast experience about restoring right relationship to fire. Chief Phil Lane.
Yes. Well, the elements of fire, water, earth, and air, of course, are valued and respected throughout the indigenous world across the Americas. And one of the prophecies talk about at the beginning of time, the Creator gave caretakership of each of the elements to each part of humanity, symbolically now, because we're all members of the same human family. But to the relatives of the north, the European tribes, he gave them the guardianship of the fire. To our African relatives, he gave them the guardianship of the water. To the indigenous people of the Americas, he gave guardianship of the earth. And to our Asian relatives, he gave guardianship of the air. Now, it's very interesting. Again, there's so many things that can be interpreted from fire, spiritually, physically, in so many ways. But in terms of the air, what they saw was that in the relatives from the that part of the world, so many of their practices use meditation, use the air. And of course, here in the Americas, our ceremonies are centered around the earth. Although, by the way, fire is certainly used in each of these ceremonies, but our primary focus is the earth. And Africa, of course, focuses on water. We can see, of course, how precious water is to our relatives in Africa and what happens when we lose water and there's no water to drink. But fire is very important because everything that the European tribes have utilized to bring us to this point where we can come together, I think we should remember this, has fire in it. Everything, engines, motors, and so forth. So I think that really fire and each of these elements, if we think about them, when they're in balance, they give us many blessings. They keep us warm. They show us light through the night. And even as you take this fire symbolically and it becomes the fire within technology, technology has carried us tremendously far in terms of now being able to understand things we couldn't understand before, being able to communicate like never before, and now having the capacity truly to unify our human family in war and begin peace on earth by 2030. At the same time, the fire of war, the fire that's been put into these weapons of destruction have to cease, has to end. This path we're on, we have a choice as human beings. We can choose the path of fire. War is one symbolic reflection of that. So all of these, they all have their different sides. If we choose that path and continue on that path, we will eventually come to peace that way. Not the way I'd especially like it, because of tremendous suffering. But we have this opportunity. Each of us are born into this plane of time and space. Each of us is sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. That's who we are. There is no death, just a change of worlds. Especially we elders. It's our responsibility because we have brought us here, especially the male elders, the masculine elements, I'm going to say. So I think that we have to define these spiritual qualities of masculine, feminine. Really, the true elder has them all. You're kind, you're compassionate. I'm not there yet. I'm working at it. But it's those dimensions of fire that also have to be balanced so we can have peace upon Mother Earth. So I want to say, let's reflect on fire from its many different meanings, both physically, what it does, and how it can be in balance, but also spiritually, its meaning, to purify our hearts and minds. So sometimes they say the tests and difficult outside, they may seem like purifying fire and vengeance, but inwardly, they're purifying water. So those are some different thoughts from different angles on fire. Love you, Ben. Thank you so much for all you've done. And by the way, I do have my video done. My grandson is finishing it up this evening as a global ambassador for 99 Days of Peace through Unity. So I'll get that to you. Thank you.
I can see that you've developed your telepathic skills too, Phil, because I was just wondering about the video and then you've answered. Now, that is wonderful. Thank you
so
so
nice
much.
to see all these beloved relatives here. So wonderful. I've known him for many years. I know Angaangaq when he was totally, his hair was totally black. He was about 6'2", a lot taller than he is now. He's shrunk a lot, but he's still looking good. Love you.
Thank you so much.
So nice to see him. Looking great. You keep looking younger. I know you're older. It must be your good health there, brother. You're looking great.
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief Phil, and just acknowledging you, Chief Phil, for the extraordinary lifelong devotion to unifying the human family, and in particular the condor and the eagle and the quetzal, and the extraordinary work that is happening also around sacred fires in South America and across the Americas. So we acknowledge you and your leadership and the incredible value that's being created by your efforts. And we have more to discuss. So Uncle Angaangaq and Chief Phil, please stay with us. So Brother Mindahi, we can see the fire burning behind you. And dear brother, you are someone who can speak to the fire and listen to the fire. So we are very excited to hear your reflections today on how we collectively as the human family can come back into a good way, a good relationship with fire in all its dimensions, in all of its depths of meanings. Brother, Dr. Mindahi Bastida.
I greet you, brothers and sisters, and I'm very grateful and honored to be with Chief Lane Jr. and also with Uncle Angaangaq, with Ben and all of you, beautiful people from around the world. In the beginning of the times, there was just darkness, and then the fire appeared. That's why we call Grandpa Fire, Grandfather. And then the other three elements of life appeared as well at the same time. We as human beings, we are the reflection of those four sacred elements. In ourselves, we have fire. In ourselves, we have water. We have the earth and we have the wind. We breathe, we eat, we walk, and we sense. But it was no long time ago, like some thousands of years ago, like 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, when people began to go away from the original instructions, how to live in peace, in harmony with nature and the sacred elements. The fire always is telling us how to behave, how to be here in this world, in alignment, in peace, in dignity, with our Mother Earth and the celestial bodies, with Father Sky. So now we are said that this mandate, one of the mandates, is to bring back the fire through the building or the construction of the houses of original thought. Because remember, some of you, it was around the fire where we gathered, we passed all the instructions, all the legends and the ancestral wisdom to the little ones. It is the fire that tells us how things are coming. I remember when my grandmother was telling me, oh, the fire is speaking. Listen, how it is moving. There's a visit coming. Sometimes she would say, there are some things that are going to happen. The fire is speaking in California. The fire is speaking in Australia. The fire is speaking everywhere around the world. We got to listen because the fire is also cleansing. We are in these difficult times. We are in this civilizational crisis that we must be aware of. This is just the result of going away from the original instructions, from the fire and the water and the earth and the wind. They are our teachers. They are our masters. They are sacred. They are not resources. They are sacred elements of life. How to become together with the fire, how to be with the fire? Bring the fire to the center of your table. To the center when you gather, when you carry out any important meeting around the world, the fire must be lit. Even when you fell in love or fall in love. You see in some places around the world, you see candles. In some restaurants, in some place where you gather and go and share food, fire must be around. And if you carry out any covenant, any agreement, fire must be around, because the energy of the fire gives us this strength. And the fire is our ancestor. We must honor our ancestors. Thanks to them, we are here in this world. Just imagine that the fire was not here. We wouldn't be here. Thanks to the grandpa fire, we can see each other. We can see the beauty of this Mother Earth and the universe. We come and we are coming with the fire. We are going with the fire. We are fire. But that fire must be clean, with clean ideas. Now you see how fossil fuels are being burned and how Father Sky is suffering and Mother Earth. We must respect Mother Earth and Father Sky. So the fire that we must bring to our lives is clean, with clean ideas, clean actions, clean feelings. That's how we can walk together in this unification process. And this is the time, and the time is now to listen, to feel that warmth. Because we know that our ancestors used to read the fire. And we are learning, reconnecting. Thanks, brothers and sisters, for giving us this opportunity. And I just want to give to the fire with this shell from Mother Sea a sound, giving great thanks for his presence in all of us, to the material, to the spiritual. We are here honoring life for the care of life. Dikamadi, Kwada, Kamadiku. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mindahi Bastida, for the beautiful, beautiful sharing of wisdom, of making sure that the fire is at the center of all of our important gatherings, that the fire is remembering and being remembered every time we come together for anything of significance, from dinners to agreements to gatherings to even falling in love. What a powerful, powerful sharing with the sacred fire behind you there. And I want to bring our panel forward. I'm going to include Venerable Dhyani here as well. And let's get Chief Phil up here. And just to have a further discussion about what's the role, what is the sacred role of fire now? You know, we're coming from Greenland, Uncle Angaangaq, where John Raymer and Jonathan Granoff and I and many others had the privilege to go and see your lands and the ice that's melting, which is heartbreaking to be there. And of course, with the warming planet. But in the terms of this sacred fire, what is the role of sacred fire in helping to correct the course that we are on? Dr. Mindahi talks about going back to the original instructions. You talk about melting the ice in the hearts of humanity. And Chief Phil's talking about the unification of the human family. We're on a journey together towards healing and wholeness. And I want to ask you, what is the role of fire in this journey, starting with you, Uncle?
It's always so interesting talking about fire. I have sat around the fire practically all my life. That I'm just going to be turning 75. No wonder I look so old. But you know, fire is the one which unites us. We look at the fire, we can see each other's beauty, and then as the fire warms us up, because our heart warms up, and we become closer to each other. And the teaching behind it also is that when we have fire in ourselves, is that we open up to even to things I don't agree with. I become more accepting of everyone because of the fire in my heart. If it is so true, then all of us, we have work to do because we are becoming so far apart from one another, and we have never needed the fire so much as we do now. Not the fire of the war, but the fire of the love and respect and honor for everyone. You know, I come from a land, the only land on earth where people live, where there has never been war. My family has lived in exactly the same village for about 6,000 years. And when I think about it, I traveled the world for 75 countries, and everywhere I went, there has been war. And time has come that somehow you and I and all of us together, we begin to recognize each other's beauty. When I think back at it, what the fire represents is also something called the sun. Our grandmother would say that in the east, when the sun rises and she leaves the contour of the earth, then she becomes yellow. And lo and behold, we have now learned that there are actually yellow people on this earth, and they are so incredibly beautiful. Then in the south, when that big fire we call the sun goes highest up in the sky, she becomes white. And lo and behold, now we have realized there are actually white people on this earth, and they are so beautiful. Then in the west, when the sun goes down, she is always red. And in the summertime, our grandmother would tell us, you are as red as the setting of the sun. And that's the indigenous world. And I have met many of them all over the world, and they are so incredibly beautiful. Then at night, it's always black. And lo and behold, we realize there are actually black people on this earth. And that's what the sun teaches us, that the fire, when she goes down, it becomes black. And we have black family members. I think it's always so amazing to realize how beautiful we all are. But because the way we live now, because we lost our ceremonies, we have become so divided. This is 2022. And we have never been more divided as we are now. And it should be the opposite. We should be more united. But how do we get there? How do I get there? I left my country of Greenland 48 years ago on November 2nd, because I did not like the way the Danish people did to my family. So I went to Canada only to realize they were no different. They were going through no different than I was going through. But I stayed there. I'm just about to be going home now because I lost my beloved wife. She died after long illness. So now I'm going to go home and settle myself back home in Greenland. And I realized that I have never needed more to be united with everyone. The yellow people, the white people, the red people, and the black people. None of us can live alone. We all need each other. And let the fire, let the work of the fire when we sit around the fire, not just physical fire, but the warmth of the fire, the light of the fire. Imagine that we can do it.
Thank you. Thank you. With the warmth and the light, imagine what we can do. Yes, Chief Phil, we know that you are using fire for so many sacred purposes as we do this great work of healing and uniting. We know that fire is a friend and a resource. So tell us, how can we best serve this process using fire?
Well, I want to talk about the spiritual dimension of fire, the purificational process of fire. We use it both in ceremony, in purification, when we burn smudge and we smudge ourselves through the smoke from the fire. There's many ways, of course, we use fire, which we give thanksgiving for our gatherings, when we sit there, for our sweat lodges, for our sun dances, for all different ceremonies, we utilize fire. But I think it's the fire in the center of our heart is the one that has to really get ignited. That fire of love, that fire of compassion, that fire of excitement, that fire of humility, that fire of kindness, that fire of faith, that fire of all bountifulness, that fire to be ever forgiving. That's the inner fire. And that fire, that inner fire, that Holy Spirit, which I related to, that Holy Spirit, wakantaka, there's another word we use, it means something sacred moving, this holy dimension, who we are, that really to open our hearts and minds and to burn away, in a way, through our prayers, through our practices, whatever we do, anything that keeps us from understanding the oneness of all life, anything that keeps us from understanding the prior unity and oneness of our human family, meaning we go back to the very beginning. It has no beginning. We have been part of this creation forever. We're just now awakening to who we are. We're just now beginning to understand our purpose here in this physical world of time and space. And just as we've grown our physical arms and legs and eyes and ears so we can experience this physical world of time and space, so are we now growing our spiritual arms and legs and eyes and ears, the quality of kindness, compassion, forgiveness, humility, being able to take and look in our own selves and make our self-assessments and find those things which leads to our abasement and leads those things that lead to our glory, to lead to our happiness. So that part is so important of the fire, that purification of our hearts and minds. Because I can say, at 77 winters, I know that Angaangaq, we're getting right up there. It'll be, others are coming that way. But, you get to that point, you realize that so many things that seemed important when you're younger just get burned away, in a way, get purified out of your soul. And that's what I want to just focus on in terms of the beauty of fire, the fire of love, the fire of compassion, the fire of inspiration, that spark that we all need to wake up in the morning and say, okay, if I can't be happy today, what day am I waiting for? Because brothers, those of us in our 70s and 80s and 90s and 100s, this is our last lap. The other three, that's great when you're running a 400 meters. That's great. That last one has to be our best one. That's my prayer for everybody. With lots of fire.
Beautiful. Well, we'll hear from Brother Mindahi on this, and then we'll come to Venerable Dhyani Ywahoo to hear your reflections as well. Brother Mindahi, the beautiful words of Chief Phil and the teaching there of utilizing fire for cleansing and for purity and the fire of love and compassion. So such a beautiful element of the whole foundation of life that is fire. Tell us, how can we best use this? How can we best utilize or serve fire in this process, what you and others call the unification process?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those beautiful teachings from Uncle Angaangaq and Chief Lane. We think that fire can bring us together, especially families, beginning with families, but also communities and nations. Because when we are around the fire, we remember who we are, why we are in this world. You know, there's a symbol everywhere around the fire. And this fire is the very old being. And the spiritual fire is what brought us here in this world when we are born. So we know that around the fire we can rethink, relearn what kind of species we are, why we are here in this world. The fire is teaching us, is telling us that we are not the biggest or the peak of the creation. We are just another species, like any other species that needs the fire, the light. But when we misbehave, the fire also teaches us how to behave or alert us. So that's the reason we are calling for the fire that is loving fire. Because even that destruction, when it happens, that's the destruction for the cleansing. So it is telling us that we are here for a purpose. And that fire is reflected in our hearts, but also in the belly, in all special sacred sites in our bodies. We have sacred sites in our bodies as well that reflect the universe. Around the belly, also there is fire. There is a second heart, as we are taught in the Otomi Toltec wisdom. And when you feel love, you feel that as well, not just in your first heart, but in your second one. There's a pulse. There's a little heart that is ignited. And if we keep that strength, that energy, we can bring together beautiful couples, beautiful families, beautiful communities. That's how we can be in reciprocity. How come we just take and take and take and we don't give back? That's through ceremony, through ritual, that we give back thanks to these sacred elements. And you know, one day I was in ceremony just with my another brother, and I saw and I felt the fire telling me that things were coming in a very strong way. And we know that the ancestral wisdom around the end of this era is about to finish. We are in 13 years of cleansing, and the fire is also one of the elements for the cleansing. The water, the earth, Mother Earth, also the air. So that's the combination. So the eagle and the condor, the phoenix and the dragon are coming together. And the phoenix is so important because it's telling us that we are entering to a new dawn. But we must live these prophetic times with actions. With actions, not just hope. Of course, we don't lose hope, but actions, and we need to consult spiritually and materially with Father, Grandpa, Fire, and the other sacred elements. So the purpose here for the fire is a glue to come together as families, as ourselves. The I to the we. Because the fire is not just for one person, it's for all beings. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this sacred element. So we can learn, we can teach, we can deliver, but we must acknowledge our ancestors so we can see the future. And the fire is going to tell us how to behave, how to follow the good living because we want clean fire, clean energies. We want clean energies. We don't want to burn our ancestors. We want to honor our ancestors. And that's a big teaching because we are in the process of leaving the fossil fuels behind because they are our ancestors and we must honor them. So the fire is telling us, behave because this is the time and the time is now for the new dawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
What a powerful sharing we've had, Venerable Dhyani Ywahoo. Just with the few moments we have left of this discussion, it'd be wonderful to hear your reflections of these three elders, spiritual leaders, indigenous wisdom holders from around the world, from Central America, from North America, from the lands of Greenland. Just to hear your reflections on the discussion and anything you want to add before we close today.
Fire is life. It is the magnetism that holds the dream together. Fire warms us. It also reminds us that we are not separate from one another. Fire reveals the wisdom of the universe within us and also chastises us when we forget that we are relatives. We can see one another, however far away, in the fire itself. It was the first Zoom meeting, was actually fires held around the world in sacred places. The message of the fire supports our heart and belly. Our heart resonates with the pulse beat of the earth, the fire deep inside, and also resonates with the stars above. Fire continually dancing and co-creating. The fire in our belly enables our families to grow and also leads us to safe places. When we were young, we heard about this time of purification, and we were told that fire would be the means whereby errors would be corrected. And so many were cajoled and informed to create again, reawaken again the spiritual ceremonies around the fire, and also to understand that our minds are connected to the fire. That if we have anger, the fires become outraged and the forests burn. When we take that anger into the compassionate action of the heart, then we are weaving a world of beauty. The fire is all of us. It is the mind that unites the dream and illuminates the potential of the darkness. And we each are seeds of tomorrow, and that fire of wisdom is within us to be tended carefully, expressed carefully. So I thank you each for sharing your wisdom, and for those facilitators who made this possible. We can always meet in the fire. When people in other parts of the world we want to meet, I light a fire in the fireplace at home, and I can see them, and they tell me they can see me. So we're using a cooler fire now, this screen, to communicate. And what is it carrying? It's carrying the warmth of our hearts, our minds, and the voices of our ancestors. So I thank each of you who have shared your wisdom with us, and the team of people who made this possible. We are all one in the light, we are one in the dance, and the rhythms that we speak and bring contribute to a wondrous song of life and opportunity. So Iliga, I am grateful. Wado.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for those closing reflections, Venerable Dhyani. Thank you, Uncle Angaangaq. It's good to see you again and be in this fire together. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Chief Phil Lane Jr., for your powerful message and powerful words and your great commitment to uniting the human family. Thank you for being with us. And Brother Mindahi, thank you for bringing your sacred fire within you and behind you and around you with us today. We have a closing little piece which we're going to play, Kaylin, just to close today's session, followed by a brief message from our beloved sponsors of Purpose Earth. But first, let's just be together in this moment as we play this short piece together. Kaylin, thank you.
Let's close our time together with a moment of silence. Listening in to each other. Being present with each other. Feeling the unity in amongst our beautiful diversity. And let's face forward as we move on to our next engagement. Taking with us the essence of this experience so that it may live on. As we continue moving through life, creating new experiences and building on what we've done together today.